There was the intentionality of craft. I think that's also part of living with the songs, but having a process that felt like immovable in a way.
Basically, I want to encourage people to make, because as you well know, making whatever it is, finding yourself and trying to connect yourself to the universe in whatever way possible may fucking save your life or someone else's.
Video, newsletter, podcast. This is Creative Minds.
Hello and welcome to the Long Listen with Creative Minds, and this is where I take you through a piece of writing, an article that's gone out on my Substack, and something that people are enjoying. When stuff hits on the Substack, this is where I bring it to you. So there's a phrase in addiction recovery. There's an acronym, and it's HALT. And we're going to get onto it a little bit. I'm going to explain it a bit more in a minute, but it's basically a process, a checklist that addicts can go through if they feel like they want to use. And I wanted to create one of these for creatives, people on their creative journey who are being overtaken by the doubts, the voices of self-doubt, which, you know, it might sound like a small thing, but no, these things go to the very heart of us, and they try and stop us on our journey, and they often that voice is kind of ventriloquizing the things that are our deepest insecurities, or the deepest things it can get a hold of. It uses them to try and make us turn around and not take those steps that we might want to take. So that's what you're going to walk away with here. You're going to walk away with that checklist, 4-point checklist that I kind of came up with, that, as I say, people have been reacting well to. So as I say, it starts with a personal story. The other day I was walking to an open mic night, and I know that it's a really relaxed and friendly environment. So why was my head shouting all these nasty things at me? Shouting things at me like, it's Monday, go home and sleep. The songs aren't ready. You're not prepared. What kind of person goes to one of these things alone anyway? And as I say, we're starting to get into how that internal voice, it's not just silly things it says. It takes the insecurities you might have about yourself, and then it flips them to try and stop you doing this stuff, try and stop you moving forward on your journey. So yeah, what kind of person goes to one of these things alone anyway? Or you must have made some really bad choices in your life to have ended up doing something like this. All these like crazy catastrophizations. Back to the article, and I've said, I think you probably get me. I think a lot of artists and creatives might recognize this kind of voice, to be honest. These are the doubts that come up when we need to push forward with our work. And there's something about this that gets to a paradox at the heart of the creative journey.
I would put things in songs that I would be afraid to talk to my friends or family about. Mm-hmm. And, and people would hear that shit and like, oh, I didn't know he's like, So yeah, it was definitely a form of way to get shit off my chest that I probably was too scared to talk to people about. Mm-hmm. And that's crazy. You don't want to talk to people that have known you your entire life, but you'll just put it out in front of the entire world. So that's like some oxymoron shit.
Danny Brown speaks on the Old Gatekeeper podcast, talking about the relationship between rawness in his work and being able to communicate things in the rest of his life.
Like me even putting that stuff into music and putting that stuff out there, it definitely gravitated to a lot of people and helped them with it. So, yeah. And that was something that I can't say that I knew what happened, because I was just putting all my fucked up shit that I was going up through as just a way for me to, to get up, like an escape, Yeah. So for people to not hear me like glamorizing that lifestyle, and to hear the pain in it and what I was going through in it, and to be able to get help for themselves too, That's amazing to me, man. I get people hit me up all the time, be like, man, tries the exhibition changed my life and shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, what's this paradox? The paradox is, on the one hand, as an artist and creative, in order to create the most powerful personal work, perhaps, you need to be vulnerable and sensitive in your work. But on the other hand, you have to find that unshakable drive and confidence to push forward, to reach out, to form collaborations, maybe to execute on projects, and then to maybe share them out in public, you know. So on the one hand, we need this kind of softness to our shell or our skin, and the ability to be raw, right? But on the other hand, we need this unshakability. Back to the article, I've said in this article, I want to look at this struggle and the shakiness that can come up on our journey. And I want to provide a simple 4-point checklist, which I'm naming the extremely catchy URPC checklist, or URPC checklist. So yeah, I'm trying to create that kind of net, that way where we can catch ourselves when those doubts are getting on top of us. Just before we jump in, I've said in the article, but first, just to make clear at the top here, most of the great artists aren't superheroes. Most of them shake a bit inside, and that's actually kind of the point often. Take Andre 3000 for example. The poetic inquiry in his lyrics and sensitivity of his pen is the foundation of everything that set him apart. But being that character, honestly, you know, he's not made that up. You can't make that kind of sensitivity up. But being that character also causes him to, you know, report feeling introverted, and having a lot of nerves and struggling sometimes to step into the greatness that other people kind of put on him. We're trying to chill out these voices a bit. We're trying to create this checklist we can go through when this stuff starts to come into question in our heads, and we can use to kind of pull ourselves back on track again. So number 1 on the checklist, first question to ask yourself, if you're feeling these doubts again, a little bit crushing at the moment. First nice thing to ask ourselves, are you uninspired? Are you uninspired?
I've been performing and touring like mostly the last 3 years, just taking gigs where they show up in different countries, different cities, because 3 years ago I quit modeling, like officially, and modeling was how I was like able to sustain music for so long in terms of income and being able to manage that. But it got to a point where it's just like, it wasn't what I wanted to be doing in the first place. And then I wasn't doing enough music. It's like, wait, I've lost the plot. Like, we're not on track. And it's like hard quit.
Anastasia talks on the Jam Supernova YouTube channel, speaking about the event which inspired her focus and relationship with music and the craft of songwriting.
That year, I was like looking around my community, and like I didn't have enough musician friends. I wasn't performing live. And I was like, I say I'm a musician, but I just play in my bedroom and I write my songs and I don't talk to anyone. And that's because of like the trauma that I went through in the industry. I needed that time to kind of like hide and find myself. But there was a definitive moment, and it was when I was living in New York, and a friend of mine invited me to play at their open mic at their shop. And it was the sweetest, most tender thing. Like, I just had my guitar and a microphone. It was plugged into like my little bedroom amp, literally, that was like this big, and a bunch of people from Bed-Stuy community, block party, just like kind of came in and listened to me play, and then everybody passed around a hat and like threw change in the hat. And it was like the most money that I'd ever made from music at that time. Wow. It was like $200. And I remember crying because like I've been doing music at that point for almost 9-10 years and had never made a cent from it. And this was the first time that I made actual hard cash. And it was from people in front of me, in front of my face. And it changed my mentality around like what the industry thinks being a musician is and like what actually being a musician is. I think in America, we get so stuck in the industry that you forget that it is just sitting in front of people, performing in front of people, telling stories. Yeah. That is the craft, and the human connection is inseparable. So that started me on this journey of like, I just want to play. I just want to play wherever I'll be welcome and appreciated. And so that's what I've been doing, and that's how I crafted this album, was around that interface of audience.
I think it's come back around, this idea of this need for us to see music with our own eyes. I think,
Have you recently interacted with some of the art that drove you to love your creative practice so much in the first place? Importantly, I think this needs to be disassociated from social media platforms. I don't hate Instagram. I actually find it useful and interesting, a place to maybe research some opportunities and do some certain types of marketing around our work. But usually, at best, it's a secondary, pre-digested source of inspiration. For me, I like to go and watch good movies. I find that place where good writing and sound and visuals come together. And to be honest, lack of distraction, I think, is probably a key part of it. The ability for my mind to be only there. I find that to be a really great zone for me to get filled up again with this inspiration. But this could be reading, or going to see a band you like, or taking a walk and listening to an album from front to back, or taking a train to see an exhibition you've heard about. What we're looking for here is first-hand art straight to the brain, right? Give your worries a rest for a moment and go fill up. Good writers read. Good musicians listen carefully to the music they love. Good visual artists surround themselves with good visual art.
There was the intentionality of craft. I think that's also part of living with the songs, but having a process that felt like immovable in a way, like my own process that nobody else can repeat or do. Like when people ask me how I write songs, it's, I think, probably an unsatisfying answer for anyone who's trying to write songs like me, because I it's a lot of meditation, and it's a lot of studying of other songwriters from throughout time, but not in a like, oh, let me break down these lyrics and da-da-da, but it's almost in the heart. And that intentionality of collecting, like I don't casually listen to a lot of music. I intentionally listen to music.
Who did you choose to listen to?
Who did I choose to listen to? Yeah, there was a choice, and like in the discovery, and of course there's a lot of things in there through discovering that you're like, okay, no, not that, no, not that, oh yes, that.
Is there anything that you can sort of bring?
Number 2, are you rushing it? There will be seasons in your creative journey, times when that sensitivity that informs your work so nicely, which makes your voice so personally yours, starts to lean towards unnecessary anxiety about the road ahead, or the obsessive nature that feeds your artistic focus and has you thinking about all this stuff so much starts to find a less positive direction and has you tripping over and over the details of some other thing in your life. For example, with me, I know that my OCD is, and I've written about this, I know that the obsessive nature and storytelling that comes out of me having that throughout my life leads directly into the power of a lot of the work that I do in my creative work. And that's just, I'm sure that people have the same thing, for themselves, so yeah, give yourself, this is kind of like, give yourself a little break if you feel like that is imposing a little bit too much this week or this month? Give yourself a bit of a break on it, you know. Ask yourself, are you rushing it? We have to learn to gain perspective here and focus on engaging in the correct little steps forward, holding the trust that over time good things will come around again. So yeah, taking little steps when we can't necessarily take big ones, right?
If someone told me at 17 that, you know, my debut album wouldn't come out for another 10 years, more, 12 years, I think I would have quit at that point, because, you know, you just never know how long the road's going to be. And definitely, I'm glad that it took the time that it did. Like, I feel like I needed to grow into myself as an artist, and I had the luxury of doing that in solitude and in relative obscurity. And no, I didn't predict that it would take that long at all. But, you know, everyone's journey is different.
It is, and I feel like then, you know, the hindsight's 20/20, because then you...
Right, number 3. Have you stopped playing, right? Back to the text. As adults, we like to formalize things. We like to take the activities that we used to call play and define them as work. We like to make things more linear and funnel our ideas into opportunities to find validation, money, or status. I do this stuff, and then, unless you're a forest monk of some kind, you probably do it too. But although formalising our creative goals, marketing ourselves and using structure to find great opportunities can be useful at times, at the heart of it, the best creative practice is a form of play and will almost always reject being over-formalised. Play is about exploration and discovery, and when we find ourselves feeling burnt out or stuck or questioning ourselves on our creative journey, we can ask ourselves this prompt: have we over-formalized our work, closed that energy off into a tiny funnel where it's now struggling to flow very well, and lost the sense of play that should always be at its heart? Lead singer of Idols, Joe Talbot, speaks on the Old Gatekeeper podcast about his approach to creativity and the purpose that drives everything forward.
My creative language, when my dad brought me up as an artist, was you get up in the morning, you figure out what you love, and you make it, and you just put it out there, and it hopefully will act as a mirror to other people. I mean, he didn't teach me that, but he taught me to get up in the morning when you find something you love and just fucking do it. Because if you're lucky enough to find that thing, that's the gift. It doesn't mean you're going to be rich from it, but fuck me, you are richer than any rich man if you got up in the morning excited about doing something for the love of it. That's a gift. Huh?
Okay.
That was like the motivation of like finding something. I found music quite late. I was like 24 or something. I don't know. But like my creative language is, I guess I'd say I'm a cheerleader. It's all about love. And it's all about making people feel like they're not alone and connected to the universe. It's exactly what my mate said that he did it for this morning. And yeah, it's just that. Like my creative language is I guess to be as vulnerable and open as possible. Just put all my horrible stories of my life out there so people can use that as a mirror. You know, It's not about my story; it's about their story. As soon as it's out there, it's not mine. And just to make people feel connected.
And just before we get into number 4 here, I wanted to put a direct ask if you're listening to this or watching it, and if you get value from this work, and if you've enjoyed Creative Minds and you also think, you know what, I'd like to support it in order for other people to get value from it, I'm doing a direct ask here, if you can afford it, to consider coming over to the newsletter or the Patreon, and yeah, the price of a coffee per month to support this work, to say, yeah, I think this work's worth it, and my vote is that there should be work like this in the world, right? That's all you're saying. And yeah, if you can't afford that, obviously don't do it. But if you can, I guarantee you that any support goes directly into my time creating this stuff, okay? So yeah, consider doing that. The links will be below. On to number 4. Do you have a cold plunge moment in the diary? I like to keep it chill and relaxed on Creative Minds, but we all know it, really, deep down. For most of us, putting something in the diary that scares us a little, committing to that cold plunge moment, if you like, is better than the largest cup of coffee we might find. It's simple, really. This is the difference between the negative, doubting voice in your head trying to get you to turn around and the reality of the situation once you actually put yourself out there. Even when we share our work and fail, we are still staring that doubting, fearful voice down. And when we feel at our lowest, it can be great to go to a coffee shop or library and do a little research, find 1 or 2 things that will challenge us on our journey and put them in the diary and commit to them. So yeah, I love that approach to it, and it's honestly worked for me this year, because what I like about it is when you're feeling a little bit of doubt, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or crushed by this like voice going, this ain't you, what you doing, this doesn't matter, go do something more useful, all this stuff. That doesn't have to be the moment that you jump in the cold plunge, right? You don't have to do it. You're maybe not doing it that day, but you can go and take yourself to somewhere comfortable or sit in your house in, you know, a nice chair that you like. You can do a bit of research and you can find those opportunities and put them in the diary, right? So you're kind of putting that thing that's going to challenge yourself down the line, and then that will start to cause its own momentum. The gravity of that event will start to churn things in you. And yeah, what we're doing here is, as I put in the text, this is the place where we square up to that voice in our head a bit. We say, okay, that's cool, you be there, you do you, right? You do you, but I'm gonna do this anyway, right? So you can be there saying all that stuff if you like, but I'm gonna just go and do this anyway. Okay, with that said, I wanted to put another final little piece in at the bottom here. Another phrase that kept coming up in my head as I tried to will myself forwards this week. Nothing changes if nothing changes. This is a simple truth that digs into the fact that often actions have to lead thoughts and mood, and not the other way around. When the obstacle in front of you or the problem that you're dealing with is based in thinking, you often can't think your way out of it, right? The action has to come first. The action has to lead the thought. And yeah, so this phrase, I love this. Nothing changes if nothing changes. It's just simple, and it's super practical. I love this phrase because it works. It challenges us in a simple and grounded way. It sounds like the voice of a chilled out, supportive friend, offering that piece of advice that's actually going to serve us. This phrase makes me think about the practical things I can keep putting in place to help me find progress over time. And reflecting on this phrase, I can reflect on the things I'm proud of from the year that's just gone, and frame up a few small steps, even small steps if you like, that I can look to reach towards in the next period of time. Let's read the comment that came in, and this person said, "This is very timely for me, especially the part about play. I'm currently struggling between what writing project to commit to next year as I finish up a screenplay. I'm split between giving novel writing a chance or sticking to screenwriting. Both have their pros and cons of," and they put in brackets, in speech marks, opportunities, quote marks, opportunities for validation, which is a quote from the piece. But the cold plunge of challenging myself to write a novel. And I love that they've immediately used that cold plunge thing. That means it's hit, man. I really appreciate that. But the cold plunge of challenging myself to write a novel sometimes pulls me more as I'm trying to decide. Thank you for sharing this. It's given me more to consider. Well, thank you for commenting on it. And then someone else has come in and just said, thanks for sharing. This is exactly what I needed in this moment. Well, reading that comment is exactly what I needed in this moment. So we're both out here, and I really appreciate that comment. If you're watching the video, drop a like or leave a comment if you want. That would be super cool. If you're listening to this, I've got an important practical thing that I want you to do if you have a second, right? Or probably 30 seconds, maybe 20. Maybe you could do it in 20. And that's just leave a review. And I'll tell you, for the specific reason I want you to, if you can, leave a review on the podcast wherever you're listening to it. And that is because at the moment I'm trying to use the podcast as a way to reach out to people I want to talk to, who I'm interested in their creative practice, and I've had some success with this at the moment. I've got some people lined up to talk to who I really know that this community are going to get a lot from, and I'm just super excited to have these conversations and to be in a position where I can now reach out. And when I link them over the podcast, the more reviews, one of the ways that people go, oh, is this a real podcast? Does this matter really? Am I going to bother to do this? Is the reviews, right? How many reviews there are. So if you can leave a review, I'd really appreciate that. That's probably enough said. And yeah, thanks as always to the paid supporters. As I said, any money, please do come over if you can and support this work if you think it's valuable and you want to support it. Support my time making it, for everyone who does get some value from it. It's massively appreciated if you do. You can do that via Patreon or on the Substack newsletter, both linked below. Really appreciate any help there. And yeah, peace, speak soon. And as always, really good luck in your own work. And yeah, peace.